Hello and welcome to ITWeb TV. My name is Sibahle Malinga, and we're coming to you live and direct from the Sandton Convention Center right here in Johannesburg, where ITWeb is hosting the second day of the Security Summit. And so we've been seeing, cybersecurity experts and company leaders within the industry taking to the podium and sharing some great insights on what's really happening within the local as well as the global cybersecurity landscape. And speaking of experts, I'm joined by one right here, and that is Clive Butkow, who is the managing partner of Conducive Capital, is also the founder of Conducive Capital. Clive, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us in studio.
Good morning, thanks very much for the opportunity.
So this is your second time in the ITWeb studios, and it's always a great pleasure to have you grace us with your presence. So you're going to be you're going to form part of a panel discussion which is titled "Investing in Cyber: How to Raise Money for a Cyber Startup." In a nutshell, just tell us why this topic is important and what exactly you'll be talking about.
I think the topic's important for any entrepreneur who's founding a cybersecurity company, because there's quite an investment in cybersecurity. You have to hire lots of software engineers and marketing and sales, so it's quite a capital-intensive, startup. So you do need most people to bootstrap a company where you're competing against companies that have, raised lots of capital is very, very difficult to help at scale. So we're going to share ideas on, how you can actually go about it. What do you need to look for? What do we look for as investors to help the cybersecurity entrepreneurs actually raise capital?
I can imagine there's several factors that actually distinguish it from investing in a mainstream tech startup. But let's just get an understanding of how do venture capitalists actually see the cybersecurity threat landscape evolving, and how does this really influence their investment decisions?
But I think what we're seeing, I think it's right around the globe, but the frequency and the sophistication of attacks, whether they're ransomware attacks, whether they're phishing, whether they're spoofing, whether they're cyber espionage, whatever they might be, is going up at a significant rate. So that you can see the demand for solutions will obviously be going up at the same rate as well. While this is happening, is you take technological advancements as an example, things like AI, machine learning, blockchain. So all this vector landscape is going up quite significantly, and you need these cybersecurity companies to protect companies from these threats in the AI, machine learning, blockchain space. I mean, in addition to that, you've got emerging technologies like the Internet of Things, edge computing, mobiles, and these things, these like last point solutions have not got the best protection at the moment.
Wow.
And really is a significant threat for organizations that are dealing with your data, dealing with your information systems from these hackers and from these bad actors. So I'm very excited about it. We've made one in my previous company, Calum Venture Partners. We made one really interesting investment into Senmark. And now we're looking at part of my new company. We're definitely looking into investing into cybersecurity companies.
Wow. Just tell us a little bit about Senmark and, how you've been able to boost, the market value for the company through funding and the growth in demand for their services.
So I think when we invested in Senmark, it's quite an interesting one. We were typically a pre-Series A, Series A investor, so a little bit later stage. When the entrepreneurs contacted us, they were at a very early stage. They had just a handful of clients, maybe 10,000 Rand monthly recurring revenue. But what was more important than that was the team. The team had built companies before. They understood the email environment. They understood phishing and spoofing. They understood cybersecurity. So the most important criteria was they had some initial traction. It was very, very small, and it wasn't typically where we invested. But they were entrepreneurs who understood the landscape. They understood what the threats were. They understood these bad actors. They understood the problem that they needed to solve. So we invested in Senmark at that early stage. And if I look back now, it's probably 3 years later. They are now a multi-million rand company.
Wow.
They are raising at, I think, something like 50 times what we invested at when we made our initial investment 3 years ago. And they're in 40 countries and with about 4,000 clients. So none of this is confidential, but they are absolutely blowing the lights out. And it shows you the demand for the point solutions that they are developing around cybersecurity.
And it actually shows you the importance of really, getting good investment on a consistent basis in order to scale your business. So you have touched on this question, but just give us, more detail on what exactly venture capitalists look for when evaluating, the market value of a cybersecurity startup. So you spoke of, the previous beneficiaries having really great experience and a good understanding of the threat landscape, which are two key factors. So what else would you say is important?
I think, it's a lot of cybersecurity startups have the same criteria as any startup, whether it's an artificial intelligence startup, a fintech startup, a marketplace startup. But most importantly, the first aspect we always look at is people, the team, and the team. But in this case, we want a team that has people that have been in the cybersecurity world before, that understand this landscape threats. They understand what ransomware and phishing and spoofing and cyber espionage, they understand these concepts. And most importantly, they understand the problems that need to be solved in the industry. So whether it's solving a problem for the thousands and thousands of fintech startups that have started around the globe, or whether they're solving a problem for the Fortune 1000 companies. And take the Senmol team, they understood those problems. They really understood the problem, and their solution wasn't a nice to have, it was a need to have. So whenever we look at investing in a cybersecurity company, we want solutions that are a must have. They're painkillers to alleviate the pain. They're not vitamins, to make you feel slightly better. And that's the most important thing we look for. And then we look for unit economics. Can this actually scale? Can they actually make money? We look for things like the size of the market. We look for things for how much traction they've got. We look at so many of the other criteria are the same criteria as we would look at for any startup that we invested in. The one key difference here is the size of the market and the competitive landscape. Are you solving a problem that not everyone else is solving? We don't want to invest in a Me Too company. Yes, it might be solving a problem, but there's another 50 of you companies that are doing exactly the same thing. So how do you actually differentiate? So what we look for is they have something that's 10 times better, whether it's a feature, whether it's a product, whether it's a customer segment, whether it's something that is better than any other competitor in the marketplace. If it's just a Me Too company, it really starts competing on price, and then it's just a race to zero. And we'll never get the returns for our investors in that situation.
Then it just defeats your purpose. So, I heard yesterday one of the speakers talking about how there are so many fly-by-nights in the cybersecurity industry now. And, sometimes it's really difficult for companies who are looking for vendors to be able to really get that reassurance that, they only realize in most cases after, flashing away thousands of dollars down the toilet that actually this person or this company doesn't know what they're really doing. So do you have a vetting process just to ensure that you are really dealing with people who understand what they're doing when you are looking at options in terms of investing in cybersecurity businesses?
Well, I think my partner is from one of the founders of Ozo, so he's very much a technical person. His background is technology, his background understands cyber, he understands all the regulatory issues. So most definitely when we do a due diligence, we will do a due diligence on the technology. How's it different? Where is it 10 times better than anything else? How's it not the same, as you said, as all these startups that are starting out and actually 9 out of 10 of them are going to fail? How do we pick the 1 out of 10 winner that's going to make our investors a 10x return on their capital?
So, you started the Conducive Capital this year after leaving Callan Venture at the end of last year. Can you just give us a brief overview of what actually makes this venture capital different? What are those factors that distinguish what you do to your competitors?
Well, I think, it's a great question, because we are entrepreneurs and operators before we are investors. So I've built numerous companies, exited a number of companies. I've probably been involved in building over 100 companies and scaling over 100 companies, advising over 100 companies, being on the board of over 100 companies. My partner's built a number of businesses, and particularly Ozo, which is one of the top payments companies in South Africa. So we are the entrepreneurs behind the entrepreneurs. We see ourselves, and while we want entrepreneurs to take our capital rather than someone else's, we ourselves see ourselves as providing value-added services. So we ourselves providing marketing, whether it's social media, whether it's TikTok, whether it's whatever it might be. We see ourselves as providing strategy advice, product advice, whatever the company actually needs. We ourselves see ourselves as a one-stop shop to provide these value-added services. We can do that because we know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. We've stood in their shoes before. And most of our competitors, in all honesty, come from an accounting background or a private equity background or an actuarial background or legal background. We come from building technology startups. And that's why we see Conducive Capital has got a major opportunity and advantage in the South African marketplace. If you look at Silicon Valley, I mean, most of the Silicon Valley VCs, or the best ones, are ex-entrepreneurs. So they are the entrepreneurs behind the entrepreneurs. We want to be the Sequoia capital of Africa, of South Africa.
Yeah, because usually you find that once an entrepreneur has received funding, they then have to go through some kind of mentorship or development process, to further develop themselves. And with your company, you offer everything under one roof, basically.
Well, we see it as mentorship capital. So we provide mentorship capital, we provide financial capital, we provide social capital. We've got unbelievable networks that we can introduce our entrepreneurs to, and we provide human capital. We've got unbelievable networks where we've got access to the best engineers, the best marketing, the best product, the best whatever you might need, the best sales. We have access to those people. So we help our investing companies in actually hiring these individuals. And that is a key contribution to build that A team and keep on building an A team. You know what the A team hiring the B team, and the B team that hires the C team.
Exactly.
We want a team of top performers, that they're always world class and they're A+ performers. And we help our investing companies at finding and hiring those people.
And what would you say are the biggest challenges facing startups as well as just the VC industry as a whole?
Well, I think startups, the biggest challenges there are really, for one, building the best team and making sure that every single person is better than yourself. So you build a world-class team and you make no exceptions for that. And secondly, I think, is understanding the unit economics. So as Warren Buffett says, accounting is the language of business. I find many entrepreneurs that they might understand technology or they might understand, but they don't understand the details of the unit economics. They don't understand how you run a profitable business. We need to look at things like your customer lifetime value, your cost of acquisition, your burn ratio. Are you spending $1 to make $2? Are you spending $1 to make $10? Are you spending $1 to make 1 cent? They need to understand these, what we call unit economics. And that's something we spend a lot of time on, is really understanding, is it a business that can be scaled? And the unit economics are scalable. Because often they think they've got great businesses and they've got traction, they've got revenue, but they're actually not scalable businesses. They can actually never actually make a profit and never actually make money.
Wow.
So a very important component for us is to look at the capital-light businesses, capital-efficient businesses, opposed to just businesses that just keep on spending and spending and spending to make a dollar of revenue.
And then they find that they're actually making a loss and they may not
Exactly.
even be aware of it initially.
Exactly.
So have you already identified some viable security startups, particularly from a local perspective?
We've identified a lot of companies. We're still in the process of raising capital, so we haven't taken those discussions too far. But there are definitely some nice companies who we want to have further discussions with. In the cybersecurity, in the AI arena, in many verticals, we're very excited about the caliber and the brains that are out there in South Africa. Very excited about the entrepreneur in the tech ecosystem. So watch the space.
Thank you so much. That was Clive Butkow, who is the managing partner and co-founder of Conducive Capital. And we do wish you all the best with your very exciting journey there.